Airsofters, and welcome to another episode of Jesse Hill's Airsoft Corner. Now, this is going to be a more interesting story style episode, and it's not going to be bought from the traditional means of me going online like I do for the most part. So I'm not going to give you a very accurate price range on these, but I can give you what I've seen in the past week or so price wise. But we'll just jump right into the gun. But first, I want to tell you the story and how I got this. As you guys know, I work as a temp referee at a local airsoft place called Wichita Indoor Airsoft. It's on my barrel cover, and I have a couple friends that are also refs that ref at different days and stuff, and one of them just so happened to be there because he had arranged a gun sale. And the cool thing is I happened to just wander in there at the right time, and of course, as I walked in, we started to shoot the breeze, and then I noticed this very weird but noticeable gun that was sitting on the display case to the left of the counter. No, it was to the left. And I was like, whoa, whose is this? And I was just really interested in the gun itself. And he was like, well, it's mine. I bought it a couple weeks ago, but I just, don't really want any guns like this anymore. And so I was like, hey, I'll offer to buy it. And he's like, well, first I got to see if the buyer that's coming in right now is going to get it. And that's why he was there. He said if he doesn't come within the next 30 minutes, you could have it. Well, as luck happens, he said the guy didn't show up, and he said he was going to pay like $230 for it. And I said, well, I can give you $120 right now, right here, and I'll buy it from you. And he said, well, that's perfect. I was willing to, that was the bare minimum, and I'll take that. And I got about a $230 gun for pretty cheap. Now, some stores will sell this for slightly cheaper. I know on e-bike, they have different prices, but let's just jump into the gun so you know what I'm talking about other than the description. This is the ASG Action Sports Gaming Full Metal Sten Mark II. Now, let's just get into the Sten itself. She is full metal construction, so you don't have to worry about anything being too brittle. The only thing I would say that I have a complaint-wise would be there's little screws, like these little silver screws every so often that need to be tightened down quite a bit. So that would be the one thing I would recommend you do when you do get this, to make sure everything's tight and fitting together properly. There are a couple black screws, as you can tell in the indentions. The gun runs pretty well. It's got a nice, it's a slower canter style rifle, much like the more cheaper made SMGs at the time, like the grease gun or those other kind of guns like that. Such as the grease gun. They had a slower fire radius or cycle because later on in the war, ammo was becoming more and more hard to find. So what they decided to do was make a gun that could fire the same round, such as a 45 or a 9mm, and they'd slow the gun down so that it would conserve more ammo, and it ended up helping in accuracy. That being said, this is one of the cheap guns that they decided to make. This gun became a little famous, considering the way it looks, and that in today's day and age, Britain is one of the most hottest topics these days because of all those shows and whatnot. Yikes. No thank you. But the gun works pretty well. It runs on a 1.2 version ASG stick-type battery. It's a very long battery. By simply taking a hex key and unscrewing the butt of the gun and sliding it gently downward and out, the stick mag will be inside this little pipe, inside the, what I would call pipe stock. Just sitting in there nice and comfy. Other features of the gun are what I call the storage/safety. Of course, the gun, when it was made, had no safety or selector switch. It was a slow cycle automatic, which could be shot individually if you pulled the trigger and you had trigger discipline to do so. So, the storage, the way it was made, it was hard to store at first, so they decided to make a rotating feed to where you could rotate this in and it can lean up against something instead of kind of be awkward at a weird angle where it could fall over. But it's also a good safety because the magazines you can put in there, but they won't load unless this is to the side like it's traditionally supposed to be. So you simply just push a button right here, this little thing right here, and you rotate it gently, and as you hear that click, it is now ready to fire. Now, an interesting part about this gun is at first you're like, where's the magazine release? Actually, I thought that this was the mag release first, but then I realized it wasn't because it was too heavy to pull. So I looked up, and very simple mag release. And if you do hold it like this, a lot of people say that it messes with the feeding and operations of the gun, and I would say that would be false because I've actually played with this gun quite a bit. And I would say that the magazine fits in as snug as a bug in a rug, and I can tell you that it won't affect it too much. And if you want to do like the spy movie tradition, holding it like that, you can. Some of the earlier MP models were the exact same like this, and the Type 99 from Japan was a copy. You can hold it like that, and they will have no problem. A lot of people say, oh, you have to hold it by the heat shield. Well, I can tell you this much. From the research that I did on the gun, this thing will heat up to about 200 degrees, so this would not be very fun to hold on to. It's a little too close to the barrel. The reason for this was to kind of heat up the back of the barrel. Since the receiver was right here and the shells were being ejected, there wasn't a lot of room for a lot of barrel, so they needed something to cool it off. So if I'm going to tell you anything, you can either hold it by, I would say hold it by about up here, and then a little bit on the mag, just to be on the safe side so you don't warp the mag or something like that, or hold it on the hump of the gun right here. It fits very comfortably and that kind of thing. Another thing I can tell you is to give you a tip. That hole is just kind of there for like a sling mount maybe. Do not worry about it. You simply wrap your fingers around that and then like that. Your finger doesn't need to go in there because I can tell you if you like fall on the gun, you're going to snap your pinky finger or something like that. So kind of ignore that hole. It's just there. There's nothing really to it. You just simply hold it like so, and it does the work for you. A lot of people say it's uncomfortable. Not really, considering the weight and everything. You can grip it pretty well, and it kind of rests more or less on these three fingers here around the front of the gun, or around the front of what would be the gun. I can say that it holds very well. It's a very neat gun. Of course, this is a non-blowback, so this little bolt here is not going to move, but you can unscrew it to reveal the internal mechanism right here where the barrel is. See, the barrel starts right here. So yeah, you can move that back and you can screw this tight and it will be locked, or you could lock it up in the the loading part right up here, and it'll stay there. But for safety purposes and safety of the internal mechanism up here, I would recommend strongly that you just keep it slid forward, just to conserve where the barrel is so nothing gets in there like sand or grime if you do play outside, or maybe a pellet just flies in there from somebody shooting at your gun. You don't want anything being chipped or damaged. Despite the fact this is a metal gun, you never know what'll happen. That kind of thing can happen in an instant, and you just don't want that kind of thing to happen. So, of course, the gun does have two fixed sights, right there and right there. And honestly, if you peep down it, it lines up perfectly, which is nice. The gun's fairly accurate, and it chronos about 330 to about 340, depending on how well charged the battery is, but it's pretty consistent considering, and it's definitely a decent gun. She fires well, her cycle's pretty nice, so it doesn't chew up ammo. I don't recommend that you really put in any type of engine other than that. I mean, it's made for a slower cycle. It's a more conservative gun. I think it would be more wise to have this be a slower cycle gun, considering today's guns just eat through ammo too quickly, and I'd rather have accuracy than I would have the ungodly speed that a lot of these Polar Stars would have, which I'm not a big fan of in the first place. So let's move on to the magazines. Now, the magazines for the ASG don't necessarily. This is going to be a bit weird. They take the MP40 mags. Now, this is a Tokyo Marui mag, which came with my gun. I got two of them, and they are, of course, the plastic style. It's a heavy, but it is a dense polymer, so it's not going to be breaking on you anytime soon, which is a good thing. The interesting thing about the gun is most guns, as you can tell where the feed is, will load like so. Well, the gun for the SG has to be turned around where the hole for the pellets is backwards. Because the gun's barrel is short, it has to be placed in backwards considering the way it feeds. That being said, you just simply take the gun like so, and like I said earlier about the whole mag feed thing, it fits in so snug you can't look. I'm moving it and it fits in real snug, so it does not rattle around. So you are, even if you held it by this like this, it's not going to affect the feeding. If anybody else on their airsoft channels, I watch Jarek and I'm a big fan. He said that he would smack you. There's nothing wrong with this, okay? As long as you're not holding it way out here and jerking it around or anything, I don't think that anything bad's going to happen with it. I can say honestly, since I actually own the gun and I don't just sell them, and I've played with this several times, that this gun will not feed in properly if you hold it up like this. As a matter of fact, this is more comfortable for CQB since your forearm is out. You're not going to smack any of the walls. I've turned corners and I've been really worried about this getting hit. Since this is a polymer, all my weight moving forward, you could snap it around. So this would be a good way of protecting it. If you're outside, you don't really have to worry about hitting a tree because it's a tree. So really, it handles well. I wouldn't recommend holding it like this because it's incredibly uncomfortable. Very uncomfortable. And the heat shield is not meant to be held on this kind of gun. Since the gun's weight is all back here, it wouldn't balance out right on the real gun in the first place. So no, don't hold up here. Your accuracy goes down, and to top it off, your sights get blocked. So no, don't hold it up here. You can if you're like holding it like this and you're posing, but I recommend you hold it back. You either hold it back here or up here, or you could hold it here, but I recommend you hold it more on the metal part rather than the magazine, for fear that something bad could happen. Again, the gun is very well built, but sometimes these things can happen to where guns will break or things will misfeed. That's just technical difficulties. That's not necessarily, a big problem. And to top it off, if you do hold it like that, you can just merely squeeze that little release button, and it'll be easier to pull the gun out, the gun mag out. So I can say honestly, without a shadow of a doubt, that the gun is meant to be held like this. A lot of people say no. A lot of sticklers for guns. This isn't a real gun, guys, remember. And for convenience purposes, since these mags are only mid-cap, yes, they're mid-cap, since they are, you want to go for the mid-cap because the wind-up versions don't feed properly into the side feed of this gun. That being said, go for the mid-caps, just buy a couple of them, they're very cheap. I bought a couple off of Amazon for only $13 a piece, which is unheard of in a lot of the airsoft community, and they are full metal. So I'm going to have 2 polymers and 3 full metal ones for the gun, and they are mid caps, so it's going to be a little more realistic for you to conserve your ammo. And since this is a slow feed gun, it kind of works for you either way. I've played games. The first game I played with this, I only fired about 20 rounds, and it turned out pretty well for me. All things considered, she's a very good gun. She feeds very well. It runs great. It's just an all-around good gun. And I know I didn't mention the sling mounts earlier, and I'm sorry for that. But the sling mount is a simple welded-on piece of steel that's built into the gun itself, and you can sling mount it right there and just kind of let it rest right here. So yeah, overall the gun runs great. There's a lot of interesting features to the gun. There's not a whole lot to it as far as, looks and all kinds of cool stuff like that. There's not a safety, there's not a selector switch and stuff like that, other than what I would call the rudimentary safety, the multi-purpose safety, of course. And I can tell you that the gun runs great. She has a distinctive sound on the battlefield when playing, and it runs really great. I don't really have a lot of complaints about it. I'm not a big fan of a lot of the British guns, but I really couldn't pass this up. It's just a decent gun all around. That being said, it was about $120 for me, but it would run on e-bike around 150, 135-ish, around there. And the interesting fact is the ASG has came out with a full metal non-blowback MP40, which is very interesting that it's actually cheaper than this, and it actually has a lot more bells and whistles than this does. So if you really are going to invest in an airsoft gun, I would buy the MP40. The only reason I bought this is because on e-bike right now, where I do buy a lot of my guns, it's on pre-order, and I really didn't want to wait for it, and it just didn't make any sense for me to have to do that. And so it was convenient that I bought this, and it does take MP40 mags. Then it came with two, so I figured, I would save on shipping and stuff. So mine's a special case. This gun is going to be slightly different price wise, and I don't think that it's a really fair price considering that the MP40 is selling for a lot less, but has a lot more going for it. Especially since the fact they're both made of full metal, the MP40 has a lot better qualities to it, and it has a longer barrel, which means you're going to have more accuracy. So really, the gun is nice. Don't get me wrong. But it's definitely not worth the price tag that you're going to be paying for it online, unless you find it for really cheap or you have a specific situation like I did. That being said, I'd give it about 3 stars considering the price is a little high and that, there's not a lot going for it as far as, safeties and stuff, which I'm a safety guy on this. But, I mean, I'd be willing to bump it up to 4 stars considering it's run really well for me. For you reenactors, this would be a good gun for anybody who's playing a paratrooper or a British soldier of any kind. A really good gun. I'm just going to start to ramble, but remember, guys, when you are playing airsoft, remember to keep gun covers on or keep your gun in a case as well. First, because of your city ordinance or depending on where you're at. Also, remember to have an orange tip on there for safety purposes to know that people know that this is a fake gun. And even if you are playing in an unsanctioned airsoft area, remember to make sure that people know that you are playing airsoft and it's not a gunfight or something like that that's about to go down. Guys, remember to have a safe airsofting. Have a nice day, and thank you for stopping by. Please like and subscribe.